Good morning, Westside.
Good morning.
I'm going to read to you a piece written by Vann. I want to give him credit for this. Our beautiful and not so beautiful air. First, as part of the Green Sanctuary Committee, we really appreciate you being here today for the second in our series of reflections on this magnificent planet Earth. It goes without saying that the Earth and its intricately woven ecosystems provide the sustenance that makes possible all of life. As you know, last October, Shelley Hatton was called for on her expertise as an engineer with the Tarrant County Water District to give you a good overview of the status of water in our lives, especially our very own Trinity River system. And if you haven't seen it, you can review Shelley's presentation under the guest sermons on the Westside website. We, however, can't lay claim to the same level of knowledge about today's subject, the air. But we're going to do our best to get you thinking about this vital part of our lives that we really all seldom notice and we all usually take for granted. I've been told that air is like sex or money. It's not important unless you aren't getting any. As we are all gathered here today, enveloped in air, breathing it into our bodies at a rate of about 12 to 20 breaths each minute, we're going to talk a little bit about the composition of air, its health effects, and its spiritual component. Philosophically and spiritually, air formed one of the 4 or 5 basic elements or spiritual elements in ancient Greece, Egypt, China, India, and other ancient cultures, as you probably know. Those of you who do meditate know well its intimate connection with that practice, and it also flows throughout Hinduism and Buddhism. John Kabat-Zinn, in his tome on mindfulness, Coming to Our Senses, tells us, quote, "For most of my life, the air was just the air, not really noticed at all and appreciated even less. Slowly, the realization has crept up on me that it is indeed just air, but what a gift. What a sensuous gift, this invitation to feel what is already offered to us, to experience that we are being perpetually embraced and nourished, and at all times both breathing and being breathed. We are living in air like Chagall figures, and living on it too, and off it," unquote. As you know, the air forms the atmosphere encircling our planet, feeding life, protecting plants and animals, and us from the deadly radiation and particles bombarding us from space. It also lifts birds and planes, provides cooling breezes, propels sea and land vehicles, turns windmills and turbines to give us power for many tasks. But it is so much more than 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and assorted other chemicals as defined by our dictionaries. Of course, as with virtually all things, there's a darker side to this air, at least from our very own human perspective, which is only one perspective. It's the medium for violent windstorms, which threaten life and property and destroy seaborne vessels. In some places, as we know, it foments giant dust storms, and in others propels raging infernos. It also serves to transmit illnesses to both animals and plants, and of course, it absorbs the pollutants that we emit into it every day through our human activities, and it slings it right back at us, causing damage, weakness, sickness, and even death to all life forms. As David Letterman quipped, quote, "Fall is my favorite season in Los Angeles, watching the birds change color and fall from the trees."
You know, Governor Perry says the air quality in Texas has improved since he became governor.
Well, what little old corners of Texas do you think the governor might have been talking about? There couldn't have been 3. Oops. No, actually, it is true that overall, air quality has improved over the past few years. But Governor Perry taking credit, like the Grinch taking credit for Christmas, or Al-Qaeda taking credit for ecumenicalism.
The administration and enforcement of the Federal Clean Air Act deserves most of the credit, along with some state programs and some economic factors. But here in Fort Worth, well, have any of you folks glanced up into that wild blue yonder lately? A whole lot of the time, it ain't all that blue. I recently heard it said that there's so much pollution in the air now that if it weren't for our lungs, there'd be no place to put it all.
Under the Clean Air Act, the Bush administration's Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, has set an ozone standard of a maximum of 75 parts per billion in the year 2008.
And we all remember just how environmentally friendly the Bush administration was.
But the big polluters even attacked that standard. Finally, last month, February 2012, the EPA issued a rule for its implementation, which of course will take several more years to take effect.
Many experts in the field believe that a healthy level should be no more than 60 to 70 parts per billion. President Obama's EPA has proposed that as a more acceptable standard. Other experts assert that any reading over 40 can cause health problems over time. Our highest ozone reading in the Fort Worth metro area last summer was 103 parts per billion.
The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, or TCEQ, monitors the air in North Texas, as directed by the EPA. We, the public, usually hear this as a color code. Orange means moderate, or a problem for the young, the old, and those whose lungs are already acting like a balloon with a big hole in it. Red is unhealthy for everybody. And purple, well, purple is almost to the point of bring on the gurney. Last summer, the Fort Worth area saw 29 days where the ozone reading soared into the unhealthy range. Our last purple day was in 2007.
But you know, I keep hearing that we are losing the high altitude ozone shield that protects us from the ultraviolet radiation from space. So why are we so worried about ozone levels going up? Don't we really want them higher to help protect us and keep us from getting skin cancer? Since ozone is just three oxygen atoms strung together, why are we so worried about its impact on our health? I'm totally confused.
Well, sure, this can be confusing. But around 10 to 20 miles above the Earth, ozone forms naturally and makes up part of the stratosphere. But that layer does shield the planet from those damaging ultraviolet rays that you mentioned. But ozone also forms in the lower atmosphere when sunlight reacts with pollution from motor vehicles, power plants, refineries, and other industrial sources. Ground level ozone is the main ingredient of smog, that brown haze too often visible in the North Texas skies on hot sunny days. Research links ground level ozone to serious lung damage, asthma, bronchitis, COPD, and other respiratory ills.
It also causes lost productivity due to sick days. Dr. Theo Colburn of the Endocrine Disruption Exchange states that one molecule of ozone can burn a hole in the delicate tissue of our lungs.
I heard that too. Exposure over time causes our lungs to become dry and leathery, and to not function well. When I attended the University of Utah, I saw 2 lungs from cadavers displayed in a medical lab. One lung was from a man who lived in an area with relatively clean air. It was pink and healthy. The other was from a man who lived in a polluted city. It was black and shriveled. And ozone also interacts with other pollutants to trigger vascular damage and heart attacks.
Okay, that sounds scary. But we don't have high ozone levels during most of the year. And I've also heard that our air doesn't have high levels of particulate matter, which may be worse for our health than ozone. Doesn't that mean our lungs can recover during the less polluted times of the year?
Well, actually, some medical experts say that even at relatively low levels, ozone damage is cumulative, meaning that once the lungs are damaged, that damage is permanent, and future injury continues to build on what was done before.
Where does all our unhealthy smog come from?
The TCEQ's website says that mobile sources such as cars, trucks, and airplanes make up over half of the pollution-causing emissions in the DFW metroplex. Area sources like paints, solvents, other volatile fluids, and small engines make up about a third. And stationary sources such as industry make up around 12%.
Okay, but do keep in mind that the TCEQ refused to implement EPA's proposed greenhouse gas permitting requirements by January 2011 because, in the words of the Texas Sunset Commission, the TCEQ must balance protecting the environment with not unduly affecting the state's economy, i.e. its biggest polluters.
Which brings us to natural gas. In the past few years, it has exploded. Maybe that's a wrong expression. Let's just say that natural gas production has grown exponentially in the Fort Worth area. You're considered knowledgeable on this subject. What effect does this boom in urban and near-urban drilling have on our air quality?
A 2009 report by Dr. Al Armendariz, a scientist at SMU, demonstrated that natural gas production emissions in the 5 highest gas-producing counties in the Barnett Shale likely exceeded the emissions of all on-road motor vehicles in those counties being Denton, Johnson, Parker, Wise, and Tarrant. His report also estimated that the gas industry was emitting extremely toxic compounds into the air, such as benzene and formaldehyde, at an average rate of 6 tons per day and up to 17 tons at peak times. The Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry lists these as known carcinogens, which also impact the blood, skin, endocrine, immune, digestive, respiratory, and nervous systems.
I would assume that the closer to emission sources we live and work, the more likely they'll have an adverse impact on our health. As many of you may know, the people in Dish, Texas, north of Fort Worth, where there's a large concentration of natural gas compression stations, have complained of numerous and specific health effects. They've also seen the impact on their animals, some of which have died.
That's right. And back to Dr. Armendariz's report. Accurate numbers can be a little hard to come by, but he based his emissions estimate on about 7,700 producing gas and oil wells in the Barnett Shale in June 2008. Today, there are about double that number, around 15,000 and growing. So you do the math on what's happening to emissions.
Well, you know that the recent air study commissioned by the city of Fort Worth stated that emissions from gas wells pose no serious health threats to local residents.
Yes. The Fort Worth study claims their monitors found no harmful emissions from the gas industry facilities they tested. However, Sierra Club air quality experts, including a former TCU staffer, strongly questioned the study's findings based upon its methodology and limited sample size. This study's finding and gas industry claims that fracking has not caused any water supply to be polluted remind me of former President Clinton's famous comments that he tried grass but didn't inhale, and that he didn't have sexual relations with that woman. Fracking may not cause water pollution, but the improper cementing of the gas wells can and does. Most telling in the Fort Worth air study is the recommendation that the gas industry adopt best practices to reduce their air emissions. The same type of best practices recommended in Dr. Armendariz's study. So on one hand, the study says we found no problems, but just in case.
Besides vehicles and natural gas producers, are there other major polluters causing our bad air?
2 really big ones come to mind right away. Lignite coal-fired electric generating plants upwind into the south and southeast of the DFW area spew massive amounts of sulfur dioxide, mercury, and other toxins across our area. The largest, Big Brown, is reputed to be the dirtiest in the nation, while the planet limestone emits more mercury than any other. The mercury settles onto lakes and streams, and the fish there are considered no longer safe to eat.
I'll bet I know the other big polluters you're thinking of. Those big cement kilns at Midlothian. The Downwinders organization of DFW has been fighting those with some success for about 20 years. And they just announced this week that the last egregiously polluting wet kiln will close and switch to a cleaner process by 2014.
That just shows that if you keep on fighting, you can sometimes prevail.
But what other steps can we take? You and I and each member of our congregation. I know I need to drive an energy-efficient car, limit car trips, avoid using gas-driven lawn equipment, turn the thermostat down in the winter and up in the summer, and install an emission recovery device on the rear of my cow.
I didn't know you had a cow. Seriously though, we can limit water use, since water takes energy to transport. That was mentioned in Shelley Hatton's October reflection and at last week's adult forum. We can eat locally grown food whenever possible, as long, of course, as I can still have my morning cup of coffee. Use energy-efficient appliances, turn off those vampires, you know, those little energy wasters on so many appliances, and purchase green energy. Simply put, we can do what our UU children urge: reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Will that be enough?
The simple answer is that it probably will not be enough, but we must still do what we can in order to live our UU principle of respecting the web of nature of which we are a part. We can continue to educate ourselves about the issues, because as you can see, they're a little complicated. And we must also share our knowledge, perhaps by forming a group to answer ignorant and ill-informed commentary.
We must continue demanding clean air as a right. Trading jobs for clean air is just an unacceptable and unnecessary trade-off, especially in light of the impact of global warming.
The EPA has recently published draft regulations that would make the oil and gas industry cut unhealthy emissions. Unfortunately for us, the new regs grandfather existing facilities. So even if they are approved, which is certainly not assured in the current political atmosphere, they will not govern the roughly 15,000 wells, plus tanks, compressors, and other pollution sources already in place in our area. But as long as they are still proposed regulations and have not yet been finalized, we need to continue to work toward limiting emissions from all natural gas producing facilities.
We, the citizens, need to continue to weigh in. We must keep telling our elected officials that that we demand clean air. They must act to prevent ozone readings over 70 parts per billion, not to mention ones over 100.
Way too many children in our area have asthma. According to a 2009 Cook Children's Hospital report, 18.6%, or over 75,000 Tarrant County kids under the age of 15 have been diagnosed with this disease. The best national comparison we could find is that 9.6% of children nationally under the age of 17 have been diagnosed with asthma. In other words, the Tarrant County has roughly double the incidence of childhood asthma as does the nation as a whole.
While we're at it, as consumers, we need to actively promote energy-efficient appliances that turn completely off when we turn them off. In other words, limit those vampires. We want more renewable energy in the mix, and where energy storage is a problem, we want resources devoted to promoting the development of large-scale storage devices. I'll bet the Chinese are working on them.
You know that cloudy Germany is installing solar panels everywhere, while sunny Texas is not. Let's promote energy sources closer to the end user in order to limit energy waste in transmission and to limit service disruptions due to weather, terrorism, or whatever. That's a short list of the things we should be demanding of ourselves, of industry, and of our federal, state, and local governments.
We're sure
you
can think of many others.
As we rise and sing our closing hymn, number 6, just as long as we have breath.
We'll sing all three verses.